What's up, YouTube? Georgia Silver Hunter back, and today we will be hunting a $100 box of nickels from a local Chase bank. And don't forget, we are in the middle of our Hunt an Album fill series, and we're going to be trying to fill up this really nice Whitman album. So let's jump into it. So real quick story about this box. It actually comes from a Chase. I don't have an account with Chase banks, and I get this question a lot. How do I get coins from banks where I don't have an account? And it's really easy. I just ask. But the story behind this is I was at a Wells Fargo on Saturday morning, and I was able to get a box of quarters, nickels, dimes, and pennies. And the nickel box I got from Wells Fargo was all 2022 Phillies. And I went into a Chase bank, and they'll do a transaction up to $100 for people that don't have an account. So I asked them if we could swap boxes, and they let me swap boxes. So that's how I came about this one, even though I am not a customer. And the nice thing is this box is all circulated. I'll just show you a couple of the enders. Now, I did go through all of these rolls just to weigh them to see if we had any heavy coins or if we were light coins or whatever. And I did see one roll with a Canadian ender, and I do have one roll with a Buffalo ender. I don't remember where it is in the box because I just threw them all back in. So I'll bring you guys in when we get to those rolls in particular. And I did find, I weighed most of the rolls, and we had at least one that was heavy a roll. So we had a 205 gram roll. Outside of that, let me get this pushed in out front here. As for our book, to give you guys a quick look, we are pretty far through it. We're looking for a handful of coins here. I know it's a little bit hard to see. I'll put my hand under here. We're missing 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 coins kind of from this first page. We've got a couple of holes here on the second page, the 49S, the 50D, the 51S. And for the most part, the rest of the book is only missing proofs. I was able to fill a 2009 Philly spot the other day in a customer wrapped hunt that wasn't part of the Hunt and Fill series, but I was able to finally fill that hole. And this book does end at 2022D, so I'm looking forward to the 2023 starting to hit, and I'll have to get an additional page for the book. But so we're only really looking for a handful of nickels. Outside of that, of course, you can look in the description down below this video for my coin roll hunt sort of checklist, if you will, and it has all the varieties and errors of nickels we'll be looking for today, with a special interest for V nickels, Buffalo nickels, and War nickels, which are 35% silver. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump into these rolls. I will bring you guys in at our first find. So this box is a little wonky, and I'll do my best to keep track of which roll we're on. This is easy because we're on roll number 1, and we have our first find of the box. It is a 1947. Looks like a Denver. We're going to go ahead and put that up on the board. And I just want to remind people, I forget all the time, but Henning nickels are 1939, 44, 46, 47, and 1953. And they were faked nickels, and they weigh 5.4 grams. So when you find these things, make sure you throw them on a scale. They should weigh 5 grams if they're legit. If they weigh heavier than that, you might have something special. But we're going to go ahead and throw this one on the board. Just got roll number 2 open, and I was splaying it out here, and look what jumped out back there. Hopefully that'll focus. The light's hitting it a little bit funny. Let me see if we can get that to focus for you. Look at that, peeking out. 1998S. So that's going to be a book filler, I think. I don't have a lot of San Francisco proof nickels that I have found in my hunts. So unless I've gotten lucky and found a 1998 San Francisco before, that is definitely going in the book. We're going to put that up on the board as a very special find. Okay, so it didn't take me long. It was 3 nickels in. I told you we had some old looking ones, and we have another 1947. This time it's a Philly, so we've got one of each. And let's go ahead and throw it on the scale just to make sure. Yep, 4.9, so that's going to be pretty typical. Pretty normal nickel. I think we're on roll number 4 or 5, and I've looked at this one. It came up reverse facing like this, so I wanted you guys to see what it looked like. It is a 40s nickel. It is a 1946. So we just barely missed the silver, and if you're curious, a War nickel is made of silver, and the mint mark will be up here rather than over here next to the building. And we know it's a Philly because there's no mint mark. It's our third 40s on the box. So I know it doesn't look like it. We're actually into roll 8, and we have our next find of the hunt. It is a 1950s Couldn't really read it there. It is a 1953 Denver. Let's go ahead and put that on the board. So I just got into roll number 10, and as you can see, we have our first shorted roll. Looks like we've got a penny in there. Now the question is, what penny is it? Is it at least copper? It is a 1961, so at least it's something we can hang on to, but we got shorted by 4 cents. Still on roll 10, but we have our oldest find of the hunt so far. We've got ourselves a 1940. Looks like it's a Philly. Pretty well worn, but it's a find, so it's going up on the board. So we're on the same roll, just a couple of coins later, and we came across a 19, what is that? Let's zoom in here. It's a 1952. That's a pretty beat up Denver, it looks like. Yep, 52D. So because it's so hard to keep track of how they are falling out in the box, I decided to take the next 10 rolls out, and we are on roll number 11. And the next to last coin, we came across our next find. It is another 1953, this time a Philly. So bringing you in here for roll number 12, and this one, I believe it's going to be a Canadian nickel, but it could be something else. But we definitely have a foreign ender, so I thought we should go ahead and open that one together, just in case there's some other goodies in there, like some additional foreigns or just something cool. But we know we're going to have a find right off the rip. So let's see here. Oh, I hate opening nickel rolls. They're the worst. So we do have some kind of beat up and weird looking edges in here, so we'll just go ahead and look at those as we go here. But the first one it's a 1987 Canadian nickel. I like to call these the beaver nickel. But there it is. So our first foreign on the box. And let's see here just some of these kind of ugly edges here. What do we have? That's just a really like sandblasted 1974. It might have been put in a rock tumbler. These things are really sticky. They're honestly kind of gross. That is a really weird 2003 D. Looks like it's got some machine doubling on it. That's just a nasty 2000. What do we have right there? That's just a 1999. Okay, well, I'll go back off camera if there's something else in here. They're all just really sticky and gross. But I will bring you guys in if we find anything else in this roll. So, of course, no sooner had I gone through about maybe 10 more nickels, we come across our next find. Same roll as that foreign, but we've got ourselves a 1947 Denver. I think 47 was one of our heading years. And it is 5.0, so just a regular nickel. Okay, so we've gotten into roll 15. I didn't show you when I opened it, but I was shorted another nickel. This time we ended up with a 1995 zinc. But we have our next foreign. We've got a 1980, I think it's an 83. Yeah, it is. It's an 83 beaver nickel from Canada. So now 2 pennies, 2 foreign nickels on the hunt. We're on roll 17, and we have our next find. It's another 40s. This time we have a 1949. Looks like a Denver. That 9 looks like a real weak 9 on there, doesn't it? Let's look at that. It's really weak 9 on there compared to the rest of the numbers. It's kind of weird. Definitely a Denver. We're on roll 18. Towards the very end, we have our next find. It is a 1957 Philly. I'm going to put it on the board. So we're about to open roll 19. I'm going to get you set up on the rack to open this just because these 2 enders look like they might be pretty old. So I'm going to go ahead and just open it live. So here we go. Roll 19. Nothing jumping out in the middle, but let's check these 2 enders. The 1964 looks like a Denver. I'll check that for the DDO, but we do have actually the 64 Denver has a repunch mint mark. The 1949 here looks like a Philly, so we have another 40s find. So I was right, that was an ender 40s. Let's see here. That goes up here. We already have a 49, so we're going to set it on top of that one, and I'll bring you in at our next find. So I just got the next 10 rolls out. This will be 21 through 30, and I wanted to stop you here just to show you I will be bringing you in for roll 25. That's where that buffalo nickel ended up. You can see it's reverse facing, so we don't know what it is just yet, but looking forward to jumping into that roll. But we're going to start with roll 21. So roll 21, we have a find. It's a 1941, actually in pretty good shape. This may end up being a book upgrade. Looks like a 41 Philly. We're into roll 22. We have our next find. It's a 1958 Denver. We're into roll 23. We have our next find, and it is a 1955. Now, if it's a Philly, it's a semi-key date. If it's a Denver, there is a D over S error. So let's check it out here together. We're hoping it's the Philly. And it's the Denver. Let's check it for that D over S. There's a little bit of extra something there behind it, but I don't think that's the D over S. So I'm going to just keep this aside and give this a little bit more of a look, but I don't see it. I don't think that's what it is. If you know more about this D over S than I do, let me know in the comments down below. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get into roll 25 here. We do have that buffalo ender, so I wanted to do this together just so you guys could see it come out of the roll. And who knows, maybe there's a whole bunch of buffaloes in here. Let's check it out. So looking at the edges, nothing's jumping out, and we have what appears to be a dateless buffalo. I don't see a mint mark on it either. Although I may have to nick a date that. It might be a D or an S. It's kind of pretty well worn there on the bottom. But I'll nick a date that before the end of the hunt. We'll figure out what that is. We got a buffalo on the board. Let's see here. It's the very same roll as our buffalo. We're about halfway through the roll, and we came up with our next 40s. We have a 1948. Looks like a Philly. Putting it on the board. So, same roll, it's just the roll that won't quit giving, and we've got our next 50s find. It is a 1959. Let's check it out here together. It's a 1959D, and it looks pretty darn good. Definitely going to check to see if it's an upgrade for the book. Unfortunately, I don't have anywhere to put this up on my mat, so we'll just leave it kind of right there. So we're up here on roll 47, and we have our next find. It is a 1948. Let's check it out here. Looks like it is a Philly, and I know we've got 48s up here already. There it is. One more for the board. We're back again on the same roll, roll 47, and we have another find, this time a 50s nickel, a 1957. Looks like a Denver. Just cracked into roll number 48, and I'm bringing you in for two. We just got the thing out, and I was kind of quickly scanning through them, and we have hiding right here a 1956. Looks like a Denver, and further on up, I saw a funny looking edge. There it is. We've got another Canadian. I know I've found a couple of these. I haven't brought you guys in for all of them, but this time we've got a 1986, and we've found three that make it four on this hunt. Roll 39, we've got our next find. This one actually came up reverse facing. I had to flip it over to see it, but we've got another 1958, this time a Philly. So just a couple of coins later, I didn't see this when I spread out the coins, and I probably should have, because you can see this edge is very, very different. We have a 1962, so I'm gonna have to check out to see if this is silver. I don't think it is, because most nickels are made of some sort of nickel or clad, but it looks like it's a 20-cent piece from somewhere. I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to look this up. So I did a quick lookup on Numista and used Coinoscope actually to identify the coin. I'll throw the screen up from my phone that shows how we found it. But this is a 20 Rappen, or I think that's how you pronounce it, from Switzerland, and it is 75% copper. So I was right. It also says it's non-magnetic, and I always keep, oh, I just dropped them. I always keep some magnets handy just to test for such things, and it is truly non-magnetic, like most nickels. So So we're into roll number 40, and we have another find here. This one came up obverse facing, and we found one of these before. I think we found one before. We've found so much in this hunt. But this time we have a 1959 Denver. Another one for the board. So we're into roll, I think it's 43 if I'm doing my math right. We've come across our next find. It is a 1941. Let's check it out. We've got a 1941 Philly, and we found at least one of those already, so we'll throw it up on the board. And I turned off the camera too fast because as soon as I picked this up and flipped it over, I did have to put it under the scope to see it, but let's see, we can see it under the magnification of the camera. We have a 1946. It is a Denver as well, but it's pretty darn beat up, but we'll put it up on the board as a find. Same roll, quite a few number of coins later, and I don't need it for my book anymore, but I want to call it out because we find so few of them. But we've got that coveted 2009. Now, I needed the 2009 Philly for the longest time, but they made such a limited vintage of these 2009s, it's something that if you do find, you definitely want to try to hang on to. So the very next roll, I think it's roll 44 there, we have our oldest find of the hunt. There it is. It is a 1939. Now, if it's the Denver or the San Francisco, it is a key date. If it's the Philly, we'll be looking for a DDO and a couple of DDR, and I think maybe even a QDR. So let's check it out here. It is the Philly. So let's check this thing out, see what we have. Let me back out here a little bit. Now, I don't know the DDR and the DDO on this very well, but typically, they show up in the lettering, so that's what we're going to be looking at here. I'm not seeing anything, nothing jumping out at me. Let's check the back. Now, I know on the reverse, a lot of times it's here in the word Monticello or in the word 5 cents. And here under the camera, I'm not seeing it. I'm going to give it a second look here before I put this up on the board. And if I happen to find anything under this magnification, I will bring you guys in and we'll talk about it. So we're into roll 45 and we have our next find of the box. We've got ourselves a 1940. We've already got a couple of those on this hunt, but let's check this out. Now we do have something new. 1940S. Now the 40S has I think an over mint mark or a double mint mark. I'm not seeing it here. That looks like just a normal S. So we just cracked into roll number 46, and as usual, we've spread it out, and look what we found down here at the end. I don't find a lot of proof nickels, and this is going to be 2 in one hunt. Look at that thing. Absolutely gorgeous. What do we have here? We have a 2002 San Francisco proof nickel. Put it up there with our 1998. That's pretty awesome. Same roll, but nearing the end, we have a really, really old looking nickel here. I'm guessing this is going to be a 40s or a 50s. We don't have a mint mark, so it's a Philly. We have a 1942. Now, 1942 is a year that is a war nickel. However, war nickels all have the mint mark above the Monticello building. So this is just a regular copper-clad nickel. So you want to make sure you look for that mint mark above the building if you're hanging on to nickels for their silver, which is 1942 to 1945. So that one, I don't think we found a 42 on this hunt, so I'm going to put it right about there because I just don't have space. Well, we just opened roll number 50, and this is definitely a record for me. As you can see, we have roll number 50 laid out, and just like, I don't know, a couple, 2, 3 rolls ago, we had another super duper shiny proof sticking out. I don't find many proofs, much less 3 in the same box. Another 2002 San Francisco. That is really, really nice. I wish it was another year because it'd be another spot in my book, but 3 proofs on a box is pretty cool. Well, that concludes the nickel hunt, and this one was kind of a good one. We had a lot of finds, and I brought you in for most of them, so I'm going to try to go through these quickly. We did have 4 Canadian nickels. We had 120, I think it's called a Rapin from Switzerland. We had a couple of pennies, so we were shorted by 2 nickels, and they were replaced with pennies. One was a copper penny, so we'll hang on to that. We did end up with a dateless nickel, and stay tuned, or maybe I'll put it in the right-hand corner. I'm going to nick-a-date it and see what year it is. And we did end up, why did I pull this aside? Oh yeah, that was our 1939. That was our oldest. Let's see here. Yeah, it was that 39 Philly. That was our oldest find of the hunt. Outside of that, we did end up with a couple of 40s, couple of 41s. Let's see here. We had a 42 that unfortunately wasn't a war nickel. We had some 46s, 47s, 48s, and 49s. Coming down here into the 50s, we had 51. We had, I believe that was a 52. We had a couple of 53s. We did have that 55 Denver. We ended up with some 56s, 57s, 58s, and 59s. And unfortunately, I don't think any of them were upgrades. Maybe this 59 is. I'm going to check the book one last time, and I will show you what the book looks like after I punch down the couple of upgrades or additions that we have. This 1963, I think, is also going to be an upgrade for the book. And we did end up with 3 proofs. The 2002 P here will get slotted, as well as this 1998 S San Francisco clad. Actually, they're all nickel clad, so nickels are never silver in proof sets. And then we did have that one 2009 Denver, and it's the one I have in my book is better. So let me get those couple of nickels slotted, and we'll show you what the book looks like. But this was a ton of fun. This was a whole lot of finds. And normally when I do nickels, I do get a fair number of 40s and 50s, but this was a whole bunch. So apologies if the video was a bit long. So let's take a look at the book. So before we get to the wrap up, I actually want to bring you in for this Buffalo nickel. As you can see, I did nicodate it. You can see down here the sort of worn spot on there. And we ended up with a pretty old one. You can tell right there we have a 1916 Buffalo nickel. That is a pretty old one. And in G4, it's worth about $7. Now, the fact that I've nicodated it probably makes it worth just like maybe $1 to $3. But I think it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. That's a pretty old Buffalo nickel. Most of the ones I find in circulation are usually from the late 20s and early 30s. So not bad. I did check it. I already have one in my book, so it's not a upgrade or something I can slot. But it's a 1916 nonetheless. Okay, so really quickly, let's go through here. That 59 Denver was not an upgrade. I actually already had a really nice one in here. The 1963 that I had, or the 63 Denver, I think it was the 63, was also an upgrade. The only other 2 things we slotted were this 2002 San Francisco proof, as well as the 1998, there it is, San Francisco proof right here. So those were the only additions to the book, unfortunately, but we're getting there. The book's coming along. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. We had a fair number of finds. Apologies if it's a long video, but it is what it is. The box produced a lot, so I had a lot to show you. So with that said, if you did like this video, drop on down below, click on that like button and leave me a comment. If you're new to the channel and you want to catch all my nickel hunts or my quarter hunts or my $50 hunts, make sure you click on that subscribe button and then click on that little bell and select all so you get notified each and every time I release a new video. Again, special thanks to my channel members, my $4.99 and up members I'm going to recognize right here on a title card. Thank you guys so much for helping out the channel. Really appreciate it. You guys also get to see the videos actually at all membership levels, anywhere from a few hours to a day or 2 early. So if that's something you're interested in, make sure you look at the memberships. With that said, you guys take care, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.